Hey guys, I'm gonna try this one more time. I started the tutorial, did the hour video, but it didn't record the audio, so I'm gonna try this one more time and go through painting weights again. Alright, so I'm gonna open up Maya. So basically, the last step to all this is to make sure the vertices are being affected by the right joints. So I'm gonna go to So that's basically what we're doing. We're painting the influence of these joints to specific vertices. So I'm going to go to File, Set Project, go to the project folder I've been working on, Set, File, Open Scene. I'm going to go to 5 because I believe that's where I was working on. Open, don't save, continue. Alright, so let's try this one more time. So the first step is you want to just test to see what's working properly. Okay, this is good. This was good for the most part. As was this. Yes. Well, and this one was... Well, that's pretty good, actually. Now, the spine in this version that I did here is good for the most part. That, I don't know, I'm a little, like, redoing. I'm gonna just really focus on the big issues, which was the face. This is fine. The neck. This is where we're having issues. And the head. So I'm going to focus just really on the neck, head, and jaw in this version. So I'm going to right click. So really, first test out what's giving you issues. Really, that spine, for the most part, was, you know, some issues, but I don't want to give you a 2-hour tutorial. So I'm going to go to and just focus on the head and neck. So I'm going to right click on the geometry, which is the mesh here, Paint Skin Weights tool. I'm going to go to where I see the neck joint in my tool settings, change the value to 0, and just start making sure that anything below the joint is not being affected. I'm going to go to head joint, and this is where I'm getting some major issues. Make this 0 up here. Head joint 2 is looking pretty good. And then the jaw joint 1 is where we're having some major issues. So this all needs to be zeroed. So the value is 0, but not the opacity, because then that's just double dipping in values. It's you're counteracting what you're doing. Make all this 0. And I'm just going to make sure all this is zeroed out. And zoom in and get the inside of the jaw as well, and like that top lip. And I'm just making sure it's at least a dark blue. And zoom in. Zoom in. Alt. Right mouse. Just get that area as well. make this stroke a little larger. So then I can just get these areas a little better. Okay. Okay. All right. Jaw. Now I'm just gonna go to jaw joint 2 and just make sure. Too much going on here. This all. So remember, the warmer the color, the more it's affecting those areas. So you don't want the jaw joint to be bringing down all this. And this either. This is why we're having that issue. Can make the area a little bit smaller. Bring the L and the U down. Let's see. I think I took too much. I could test and just see how it's. Oh, I have like all that there. That's a problem. Alright, let's see how this is looking. Okay, not too bad. I just gotta make all this zeroed. So right click on the geometry again, paint skin weights. Go back to, and just make sure jaw joint 1 is looking good too. So see how I have this little green area? So it's bringing down that geometry. So if it's like this light green, it will bring it down. That means it's definitely going to affect that area. It's like this, like, very, it's a slight nuance in color, but unfortunately, it does affect it. Jaw joint 2. Okay, it should be good now. So now if I select the control again, yeah, way better. Good. Alright, so now that we have that, I can, again, test the neck. Good. The head control. Right. Good. Alright. Now I'm just going to test the arms. Okay. It's bringing a little too much here. So I'm going to right click on geometry, paint skin weights. Go to tools. Go to where it says left clavicle. Just make this a little zeroed out. Left shoulder. Should be fine. And a little bit underneath the armpits. So now when I move the clavicle, well, it's still affecting a lot there. Shoulder. Okay. I'm going to go back to right click on the geometry, paint skin weights. I'm going to go back to left clavicle. Make this a little less here, and then near the chest. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, way better. Alright, good. Elbow. Might need to just right click, paint skin weights. Go to where it says elbow. Just make this a little bit zeroed out. Left wrist. Should be good for the most part. Okay. And the biggest issue here was the left thumb, because it's very close to this area, so it starts dragging that along. So I'm just going to make that zeroed. Going to rotate my camera to kind of get that inside crevice right there. There we go. Left thumb joint 2. Do the same thing in that area. So I'm just making sure it's a lot of that's affecting, which we really don't want. It doesn't need to. So the joint needs to just be affecting the area it's in. So this is a lot going on here. And just to make sure it's not affecting that area. So again, this is the time to get a good set list of music and have some solid song choices. Some jazz, I don't know, movie soundtracks. It's always a good genre. So now we're testing the controls. So that's looking good. Good. This was good from, well, it's dragging a little bit down there. So what we'll do, right click on the area, paint skin weights, and just make sure we'll go through left finger. Okay, that's good. It was just the left index that was really, if I can find it. I see. Okay, so I must have not named it. So I'm gonna go to this joint and just make sure. Good. Okay, that's good, and that's good. Okay, good. So now when I move this, it should, yeah. Still having, we'll let it slide, at least for right now. I'm going to right click on the geometry, paint skin weights, and just make sure the right side is looking good too. So I'm going to scroll down to right. Shoulder joint, clavicle, here we go. Just going to tone down that area and underneath the armpit. Shoulder. So now when I test the control, let's turn that down a little bit. Good. Okay, this is looking good. Tone this, see how this is looking. Okay. Good. Elbow. We'll right click on geometry, paint skin weights, go to the elbow now. Just make sure underneath before it is 0, like a dark blue at least. Okay, wrist, same thing, just in this area. Alright. And I'm just going through the fingers again, just making sure the side isn't being affected. Okay. And then the last one is the thumb joint. Sorry, pressed F for some reason. Okay, alright. So again, I'll just test. Select the elbow, okay, good. Wrist, good. Thumb control, good. Index, should be good. Let me go to right click, paint skin weights, and go to the index, joint 1. Oh, whoops, right, not left. Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. That area. Okay. Alright, so now when I select the control, it should, for the most part, there we go. Better. Alright. Might go back to this one. Just make sure it's only affecting that area, and then... Alright, so now when I move this control... Yeah, okay. Good. Good. Okay. Alright, everything else was pretty solid. Let me see if I... Yeah, right click here, paint skin weights. I could go to the legs, just to the... Let's see, where am I? Scroll up. That's good for the most part. The knee is good. I do want that ankle to affect it a little bit more though, so I will make the value a little higher. So I'm at the right ankle, and I'm just making sure this is really going along with it. Alright. So I'm gonna... go later. Remind me tomorrow. There we go. I couldn't see, so I'm gonna go back to this left ankle. Make this red. then go back to right ankle joint and just make sure this bottom area too. So now there we go. That's looking good. And because I was having some deformations actually in the last, I realized I never went and fixed the weights for that heel. Good. Okay, yeah, the heel's looking good now. Okay. Alright, so now that this is done, I'm going to file, increment, and save. I'm going to hit yes for the overwrite because this is overwriting the last tutorial that it didn't record the audio. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to, in my front camera, I'm going to import an image to refer to. So under the side camera, I'm going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. I already selected like a reference image already. So pick some type of pose, nothing too complex because this rig is very basic, but something that you can refer to, some type of action. Make sure it's a photograph of an actual person, not something based off of animation or nothing based off of like a cartoon or a clip art, because a lot of those photos or images are based off of actual real life references. So instead of, you tend to lose something when you do that, when you're basing things off of animation. So I'm going to go to Open. So in my side camera, I'm just going to enlarge this a little bit. I'm going to hit the spacebar again, go to my perspective camera, move this out of the way. I'm going to rotate. I'll rotate the image just so I don't have to move the rig too much. Make this larger so I have like really good. Alright. So, you know, we got to be honest, like the mobility of this character that we have here isn't going to be as flexible as this rig. But we're just going to do our best to just get the best pose in relationship to the proportions of the character we have. So I'm going to start with the core, and I'm working my way out with the spine. So I tend to pose out the spine first before I work on like the outer limbs. And just getting that line of action from her hip to the head. So think about twists and tilts. Look at how her body is kind of curving like a C right here, but it's also twisting. And I'm going to hide the joints so you don't move the joints, since remember we animate on curves. And don't rotate the geometry. Make sure you're selecting the NURBS curves. I'll rotate the jaw. I'll start with the clavicle now. Twist this up. Might translate it just a little bit. Push it forward. Rotate the shoulder. Too much. Okay. Add a little bit of a bend. Even though her arms are pretty straight, add some type of bend to the arms so that way we kind of allude to how you don't want complete straights, at least for something like this, since you want to kind of create like a fluidity in her arms. So there's a line of action in her body going this way and this way, but then there's also this line of action from her arms through the shoulders to her wrist. So I'm going to create like a little bend here. Rotate the thumb control a little bit. Let me bring it a little, don't like to do too many translations, but just to bring it a little down. I'm going to go a little off from the photo. Just create a little bit more of an interesting silhouette within her hands. You can't see, but I'm selecting the clavicle control again. Then I just rotate the body, the shoulder up and a little bit back. And again, just a slight bend. Okay. You know, I don't want to create too much twinning where there's like this even amount of angle, so I'm gonna bring this shoulder, this clavicle a little bit more forward compared to the other one and lower it just a little bit. So it's just looking a little less symmetrical. Yeah, that's looking way better. Okay. Bring this down a little bit. So then we can twist it a little bit more. Bring this curve. Use this spine and bring this up a little bit more. Alright, so now that we have that, we'll bring this forward and rotate it. And bring this back. So again, remember, this is less. Ooh, bring this a little. There we go. Yeah, the foot controls aren't completely rigged. You know, there's ways to create like, you know, whatchamacallit? There's ways to create these controls to just create the point in the toe, but that's just adding more work to this, and we're just learning the basics of rigging. I can put up a copy, if I can find it, of a good rigging stuff to look at, you know, during your winter break and all that. Okay, so now that I have a little off balanced, I move this a little bit so her weight, or the weight of this character, is a little bit more better. See if I can, you know, create the illusion of a. Alright. I can go like that. It's just, it's gonna look a little weird, but. Okay, so I have this character. It's lovely. Oh my gosh. Again, I might not have to be as flexible as this since it's not as complex of a rig. So I have this character. It's It's posed. So now what I'm going to do, wrong camera, space bar. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to render this image. So I'm going to give it a plane so it has a little something to work with. So I'm going to scale the plane, move it down to where it's there. I'm going to zoom in, scale it up a little bit more. So I have a plane. I'm going to frame my camera a little bit so it's little thirds, zoom in as much as I can without cutting off the pose. I'm going to render by clicking on the clapboard. Make sure my software is selected. If you'd like to light it, by all means, light your, make it presentable if you'd like. So once I have one angle, I'm going to go to File, Save Image, last name, first name, render 1, project to render 1, project to render 1. I'm going to close this, rotate my camera. If you want to get from behind, that's fine. Again, don't cut off your image and, compose it very well. Render, File, Save Image. JPEG is the file type. Last name, first name, project 2, render 2, sorry. Hit save. So now you have those two renders go to Canvas, the project folder goes to Google Drive, and that's it for this project. Any questions, just let me know, and all the best. Take care. Bye.